Calaroga Shark Media.
From Washington, D.C., where you can sail the seven seas, this is Ballot.
Come on and join your fellow man. Let's hit this. I'm Patrick Gutfield, and Trump spent Sunday surrounded by seamen as he gave a speech to 10,000 Navy sailors on Sunday. Sailors who, by the way, aren't getting paid right now because of the government shutdown. And he showed up 45 minutes late. So these service members are standing in the sun, unpaid, waiting for the president to arrive so he can tell them about stairs. During his rambling remarks, the 79-year-old president made a truly wild prediction. He admitted he will probably fall downstairs one day, which is not typically something you announce to the troops as a morale booster. He was talking about Joe Biden, because of course he was, saying Biden had no clue what the hell was happening and that the chance of him walking down those stairs successfully were not good. Then he just casually threw in, and I have to be careful because one day I'm going to probably fall. He then revealed his personal stair-walking mantra. He says he tells himself, walk down the steps nice and slowly. You ever notice? I don't have to bop down the stairs. Walk nice and slowly. And look, there's context here. Trump was filmed in July stumbling on the stairs to Air Force One. He's been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a condition where blood pools in the legs due to poor circulation. His cankles have been photographed. He's got a recurring bruise on his right hand. But earlier in that same speech, Trump claimed that his former White House physician, Ronnie Jackson, said he was the best physical specimen of 3 presidents, better than Barack Obama and George W. Bush. He told the crowd that Jackson was asked, who's in the best shape? Who's the healthiest? Who's the strongest? And Jackson supposedly said, that's easy, President Donald Trump. Couple problems with that story. Jackson never publicly said that. Newsweek checked. Also, Jackson is the same guy who got demoted in 2022. Anyway, the Navy just threw Donald Trump the world's most expensive make-good party in Norfolk, Virginia. This is after the Army's parade back in June, which was supposed to celebrate both America's 250th birthday and Trump's 79th, turned into what I can only describe as a $30 million disaster on wheels. The June event was supposed to be this grand celebration, but instead it got overshadowed by massive No Kings protests across the country. Millions of people showed up to those. Meanwhile, footage of soldiers marching completely out of step went viral, which, when your military parade gets roasted on TikTok, that's not great, and Melania was caught on camera literally napping during the procession. The First Lady fell asleep at a military parade honoring her husband. That's like falling asleep at your own wedding. So Trump was reportedly furious about the whole thing. The Wall Street Journal said he wanted a do-over, specifically asking the Navy to give him a shimmering spectacle with Seacraft, which sounds less like a military order and more like something you'd request for a gender reveal party. And the Navy delivered! On Sunday, despite the government being shut down, by the way, they gave Trump his own private air show. They had a fighter jet with President Donald J. Trump, 4547, printed on the side. They put his name on a fighter jet. That's not standard military protocol. That's a Sweet 16 party. Trump and Melania stood on the deck while Navy destroyers fired missiles into the Atlantic Ocean and SEALs dropped from helicopters. The whole 9 yards. Trump told the crowd of 10,000 sailors, I was just given a display with the wonderful First Lady, the likes of which I think few people have ever seen before. Then he launched into a 45-minute speech. Again, government shutdown happening, but sure, let's do a 45-minute victory lap. And here's my favorite part. During the speech, Trump forgot the name of his own book. The one where he claims he predicted Osama bin Laden would be a problem. He actually said, in the book I wrote, whatever the hell the title, I can't tell you. Trump walked off the stage to the Village People's YMCA. It's a shame the Village People don't have a song that would have worked for people in the Navy. The Federal Aviation Administration has a staffing crisis, and the culprit is something you'd never guess: government shutdowns. That's right, the reason your flight sat on the tarmac for 2 hours at Newark isn't because the pilot forgot where New Jersey was. It's because Congress keeps shutting down the government like a teenager rage-quitting a video game. The FAA doesn't have enough air traffic controllers to control the nation's air traffic, which seems like a pretty fundamental problem. Airlines have been forced to delay, reschedule, or cancel thousands of flights. If you've been stuck in an airport recently, wondering what went wrong, here's your answer. Repeated budget fights and shutdowns over the last 15 years have prevented the agency from hiring and training enough controllers. Here's the thing about training air traffic controllers. It takes years. You can't just pull someone off the street and say, "Here's a radar screen, try not to crash any planes." There are limits on how many can be trained at one time. When funding gets disrupted, the pipeline doesn't get fed, and the agency falls behind. Then you end up stuck in Cleveland when you were supposed to be in Miami. Even with fewer flights, the FAA is stretched to its limits. The agency increasingly relies on mandatory overtime shifts and 6-day work weeks to cover staffing shortages. The overtime budget has increased by 300% since 2013. So not only do we not have enough air traffic controllers, the ones we do have are exhausted and overworked, which seems like exactly the situation you want when people are guiding metal tubes full of passengers through the sky at 600 miles per hour. And here's the fun part. The FAA relies on outdated technology that it's struggled to upgrade or replace. Other countries use more modern systems to guide larger numbers of airplanes safely through crowded airspace. But in America, we're doing it the old-fashioned way, with too few people, working too many hours, using technology from the Bush administration. The first Bush administration. Government shutdowns are brief because Americans quickly remember that the government does important things. But the end of a shutdown doesn't mean everything springs back to normal. Some damage endures, and in the case of the FAA, that damage means your flight is delayed, canceled, or circling above Newark for 2 hours, while an overworked air traffic controller running on 6 hours of sleep tries to find you a place to land. So the next time Congress threatens another shutdown, remember, they're not just shutting down the government for a few days. They're shutting down training programs, research projects, and critical hiring pipelines that take years to recover. Portions of today's program were made with the help of the Village people and AI.